Can you trust your memory? A samurai found that in a quiet bamboo grove. One by one, the crime's only known witnesses recount their version of the events that transpired. But as the each told the tale, it becomes clear that every testimony is plausible yet different, and each witness implicates themselves. This is Promise of In a Grove, a short story published in early 1920 by Japanese author Ryunosuke of the Gar. The many know this tale of varying perspectives by a different man, Roseman. In 1950, Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurokawa adapts two of the Bataka stories into one film. This movie introduces story to an enduring cultural metaphor that has transformed our understanding of truth, justice, and human memory. The Hiroshima effect describes a situation in which individuals give significantly different but equally conceivable accounts of the same event. Often used to highlight the unreliability of eyewitnesses. The Hiroshima effect usually occurs under two specific conditions. The first, there is no evidence to verify what really happened, and the second, there's pressure to achieve closure, often provided by authority figures trying to identify the definitive truth. But the Hiroshima effect undermined the very idea of singular, objective truth. In the source material, Akutagawa and Kurosawa used the tool of their media to each character's testimony equal weight, transforming each witness into a reliable narrator. Without any hit on who shared the most accurate account, the audience can't tell which character to trust. Instead, each testament takes on a truthful quality, and the audience is left doubting their convictions as they guess when they summarize life. Some might find this pertinent because plausible expectations of how mysteries usually end. But for refusing to provide a clear answer, these two ideas capture the messiness and complex of those truths and human memory. Neuroscientists have found that when we form a memory, our interpretation of visual information is influenced by previous experiences and internal biases. Some of these biases are unique to individuals, but others are more universal. For example, ego's inventory bias can influence people to subconsciously reshape their memories in ways that cast a positive light on their actions. Even if you're able to code a memory accurately, recurring it incorporates new information that changes the memory. And when we later record the events, we typically remember the embellished memory instead of original experience. These underlying psychological phenomena, named the Hiroshima effects, can pop up anywhere. In biology, scientists start from the same data set and applying the same analysis methods, frequently publish different results. Anthropology regularly grappling with the implied personal background can have an expert profession. In one famous case, two anthropologists visit the Mexican village of Tepoztlan. The first researcher described life in town as happy and content, while the second records residents as paranoid and disgruntled. Experts find the Hiroshima effects can also impact the general public, particularly when it comes to perception of complicated world events. For example, following a 2015 security summit between the United States and leaders from Arab states, media reports about the summit varied enormously. Some stated it handsomely, while others called it complete failure. It's tempting to fixate on why we have competing perceptions, but perhaps the more important question the Hiroshima effect raises is what is true anyway? Other situations can an object's truth doesn't exist? What can different versions of same events tell us about the time, place, and people involved? And how can we make group decisions if we're all working with different information, backgrounds, and biases? Like most questions, these don't have definitive answer, but the enduring importance of complex story suggests there may be value in embracing the ambiguity. One more. A samurai found that in a quiet bamboo grove, one by one, the crime's only known witnesses recount their versions of the events that transpired. But as each tell them tale, becomes clear that every testimony is plausible yet different, and each witness implicates themselves. This is promised in a graph, a short story published in the early 1920s by Japanese author Ryunosuke. The many know this tale of varying perspectives by a different name, Rashomon. In 1950, Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa adapts two of the Okama's stories into one film. This movie introduces worry to an enduring cultural metaphor that has transformed our understanding of truth, justice, and human memory. The Rashomon effect describes a situation in which individuals give significantly different but equally conceivable accounts of the same events. Often used to highlight the unreliable eyewitness, the Rashomon effect usually occurs under two specific conditions. The first, there is no evidence to verify what really happened. And second, there is pressure to achieve closure, often provided by authority figures trying to identify definitive truth. But the Rashomon effects undermine the very idea of a singular, objective truth. In the source material, Gurikawa and Kurosawa used the tool of their media to get each character's testimony equal weight, transforming each witness into the unreliable narrator. Without any hit on who sharing the most accurate account, the audience can't tell which character to trust. Instead, each testimony takes on a truthful quality, and the audience is left doubting their convictions as they guess who ended samurai's life. Some might find this frustrating because the philosopher's expectation of how mystery usually ends. But by refusing to provide a clear answer, these two artists capture the messiness and complexity of truth and human memory. Neuroscientists have found that when we form memory, our interpretation of visual information is influenced by our previous experiences and internal biases. Some of these biases are unique to individuals, but others are more universal. For example, egocentric bias can influence people to consciously research their memories in ways that cast a positive light on their actions. Even if we are able to encode a memory accurately, recurring incorporation of information that changes the memory. And when we lately recorded events, we typically remember the implicit memory instead of original experience. These underlying psychological phenomena mean the Rashomon effects can pop up anyway. In biology, scientists start from the same data applying the same analytic methods, frequently publish different results. Anthropologists regularly grapple with the impacts personal backgrounds can have on experts' perception. In one famous case, two anthropologists visit the Mexican village of Tampa. The first researchers described life in town as happy and contented, when the second records residents as paranoid and disgruntled. Experts cite the Russian effects can also impact the general public, particularly when it comes to perception of complicated world events. For example, following 2015 Security Summit between the United States and leaders from Arab states, media report about summit varies enormously. Some state it goes smoothly, while others call it complete failure. It's time to fix why we have competing perceptions. Perhaps one more important question the Russian effects raises is what is true anyway? Other situations can an object true doesn't exist? What can different versions of same events tell us about the time, place, and people involved? And how we can make group decisions if we are all working with different information, backgrounds, and biases? Like most questions, these don't have a definitive answer. But the enduring importance of a current story suggests there may be value in embracing and ambiguity. When it comes to timing truth, what's more reliable, ambiguity and the humorous strength in some, but sometimes the cost in case to agreement, the less trustworthy.